Give me your pressing thoughts going forward. Thoughts, concerns about this team and where they are headed, what you're concerned about, what you feel good about. Just give me one or two things and we'll go back and forth here, because I got a couple things here.
Physicality is an issue for us offensively.
Okay.
I feel like the offensive line has to be put in a position where we need to get physicality from them right up front, because they don't have a lot of it. So you can't pussyfoot around up front on the offensive line. I think Kyle does a disservice when he starts the game with our guys going backwards instead of forwards. You know what I mean? I played O-line, right? I coached O-line. And for me, every true O-lineman to tell you, man, they much rather run the ball than pass block, right? You want to run the ball. And when you have a game as physical as this, where you got guys teeing off on you, clubbing you, bullying you, it's like, man, why are you making me go against this dude when he's fresh? Like, why am I getting all of his fresh pass rush moves? Why am I get on my feet doing all of this? And I'm stressed right now because you don't believe that we can like really get at these guys in the trenches in a north-south posture, right? And I understand what you're seeing on film, but can we try? You know what I mean? Like, before you start getting into where you think the ball should go on the field, can we just line up and just punch these dudes in the mouth for like a drive so we can come back to the sideline and tell you how they feel? Like, that's number one question in coaching and in playing. First drive, we can talk till we're blue in the face. We could put all the game plans together, but nothing will give you a true litmus test. All that shit goes out the window once you play like the first drive. And you come back on the sideline, and the very first question is how they feel. Are they what we thought they were? Like, are they as strong? Sometimes you come back and they're like, Coach, these dudes is nothing like y'all said they was, right? They're not that, right? And that is what shapes the game plan, right? That's what shapes it, where if you do have 4 or 5 runs where you're like, all right, this shit's working, man, scrap the rest of that shit. We running this until they get us out of it. That's what this game was about. This game was about domination. And we didn't really get into our best plays. That's what is frustrating the most for me, to kind of circle back to your question, is offensively, we sacrifice our identity for our scheme. And I don't like that.
I've got a concern going forward. And I know that we say, hey, it's not the defense today, it was the offense, whatever. But I do have a defensive concern going forward. They don't know what they're doing at corner.
No, they
They
don't.
have no idea.
Why is he playing?
Ambry Thomas again. Then Verrett came in and played nickel, and Lenore went outside. Then they went back to Ambry. Then they went to Luter. They don't know what they're doing at that second corner spot. And right now, to have that question mark heading into the final stretch of the season, when we thought we had it figured out, that's a little bit of a concern, that they don't know what the second corner looks like, / nickel corner, depending on what they do with Lenore. That to me is a concern going forward. Did you see that? Did you pick up on that at all?
Yeah, I was very concerned about Jason Verrett playing. I felt as though that our secondary, and that's, man, I don't know, man. Like, that's kind of like living with the devil versus the devil you don't. Yeah. It's like, all right, bro, we got young guys. They're coming up. We got to get them on the field, and they're growing and showing. They're showing time on task in front of us. All right, I'd much rather live with that. And I'd lean on the development and the youth and the coaching than to go get a retread who intelligently knows the defense, but his body won't get him there. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point of having a guy out there that knows the defense, but you know what I'm saying? He's Christopher Reeves. Like, I can't do it. My body won't do anything. Like, I don't understand why Jason Verrett has been inserted into the lineup. Maybe there's injuries, so I don't want to talk out of school. Maybe there's some things happening that we don't know about, but it is a little bizarre that all of a sudden that he came on the team, we were looking at him as like a reserve guy, if and when, you know what I mean? Like there's injuries. And then all of a sudden he's like warming up on the biggest game of our season. That was weird. Like, why? Like, that was weird to me. Like, why is he here? And not to say that I don't want Jason Verrett on the team, but you go in, this is good on good. Why are we bringing him in here? Like, this is the Super Bowl, and like, we absolutely need this guy in this position right now. So, yeah, I do understand where you're coming from that perspective. And we do have a little bit of we had some lag at safety play. Jair Brown is doing the best he can. He has his spots. He's not consistent, but Gip is having a hard time covering these guys in open space now that Huff is gone and he has to take over that role. And a lot of, if you remember, I believe in their first drive, I think about 50 yards and 3 penalties were all because of Tashawn Gibson, right? There was the holding, then the PI that he had. And I'm starting to see that offenses are starting to single him out offensively, right? You're starting to see a lot more penalties on him because the same way we start singling guys out on certain teams where they may be a little bit slower or may have a lot, not be as fleet of foot. I'm starting to see offensives start picking on Gip now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always been there. And that's what makes the Rams really interesting, at least offensively versus our defense. Now that Cooper Kupp's back, I don't know how the 49ers plan to cover those receivers, because those receivers, much like the Ravens receivers, are not true number ones, that they're the big bodies that you put outside. No, these guys will line up everywhere and they're quick. And that is really, really tough to guard when it's not the norm in the NFL and that's not how your team is built. So I am curious to see how that plays out. Yeah.
Well, speaking of secondaries, that's another calling card or another kryptonite, if you will, on our offense. Remember when we were talking about the Browns, and we talk all the time. So I don't know when the shit just runs together. So we were on the phone sometime and we were talking about, this is before Seattle had even played us. And we were thinking that Seattle was going to be a tough matchup for us, not because we believed in the team, but how they were built. And moreover, their secondary, they had big physical guys on the secondary. They had fast guys that were going to come down and really play hard. And what was crazy about that is that you and I were having this conversation like in the summer, right? And then we played Cleveland. And they kind of like brought it to light of like, okay, that's when we really started banging the table for Seattle, because Cleveland, they showed the same thing that the Ravens showed tonight, is that a lot of what we do is we get the ball in fringe areas on the field, i.e. outside the numbers or in the seams. And we get very physical players there, right? So we'll give Debo zero routes, or we'll give him tunnel screens. We'll get George going up the seam versus a safety chasing, right?
Yeah.
Kyle does a really good job at not only getting the ball out in wide open spaces, but that's his big thing, physicality. But it's very hard to do that when you play with DBs across the board that are all physical. Right? Like Marlon Humphrey, he may not be the most physical guy, but he's game, right? He's not no punk. He's got all heart, right?
Yep.
You saw their safety play, dude. Hamilton was all over the place. All right.
Yeah.
That's the thing about us, is that I feel as though that our kryptonite with facing defenses is their skill guys being as physical as our skill guys. Right, where you can't
and getting
find
home with four. That's the other big one, and not many teams have been able to do it. Yep.
Yeah, it's like we got enough to go against your skills, and our 4 are talented enough to single these dudes out up front.
Yeah. 808 Niner says they're missing too many tackles, not blaming the defense for the loss. I think this was going back to a comment earlier from 808. They just look tired the last couple of games. They need a rest bad. Yeah, for sure. I think that's, again, that bye week, 808. I'm with you, man. The bye week is going to be crucial. Brother Bob brings up what we were just talking about, which is 20 being benched, 22 being benched, 20, and then 28. yeah, that secondary was shifting all over the place. Chance says Purdy in the Jimmy G doghouse? No, I think he was.
No.
I think that was really Kyle looking at him saying, "We need you. We're not putting you back out there to
But football has
behind
changed
this
though,
offensive
hasn't it?
line." What's that?
Hasn't football changed though, Jesse? Like, did you hear when they said that when Brock got his stinger in Arizona, that was the first time he had a stinger
He'd
in his
ever had a
football
stinger?
career?
Yeah.
Bro, do you know how common stingers were when we played, bro?
It's so common.
Like,
Yeah.
son, like that's wild. And this is a kid that is known for like his braggadocious play. And he's just got his first sting. It's like, bro, that like floored me. I'm like, dude, I'm old, man. I'm old, man.
Wave 9. Wave 9 says no bull. Brock Purdy's not it. NFC is anyone's. Wave, I understand that the sky is falling for you right now, but have you looked across the NFC? Just take a gander across the NFC and you tell me who scares you in the NFC. Now the AFC is a whole different ball game. You get there, you have to play a Ravens team that's healthy. We'll see what's going on with Kyle Hamilton. Prayers out to him. I hope he's okay. But you know, overall, the NFC is still the Niners for the taking, I think.